Imagine a man walking alone through the streets of New York at the end of the 19th century. The city was just beginning to be lit up by electricity, but few really understood what that meant. Among ordinary citizens, there was an eccentric man with a penetrating gaze and restless mind who seemed to live in a world of his own. That man was Nikola Tesla. For many, Tesla was just a brilliant inventor. For others, he was a visionary who lived 100 years ahead of his time. But for those who dive deeper into his story, it becomes clear that Tesla used something that transcended traditional science. He worked with mental waves, accessed the subconscious, and transformed invisible images into inventions that would change the fate of humanity. Tesla didn't need immediate prototypes. Unlike most inventors who failed, corrected, and tested physically until they reached something functional, he did everything inside his mind. He visualized entire machines, gears, circuits, even the sounds they would make while working. He built, adjusted, and corrected flaws in his imagination, and only after being completely satisfied did he move on to paper or practice. The most impressive thing is that when his projects finally moved from his mind to the real world, they worked exactly as he had predicted. It was as if his mind were an invisible laboratory, capable of simulating reality with absolute precision. But how was this possible? Tesla believed that everything in the universe was made of frequency, energy, and vibration. This wasn't just a pretty phrase, but the fundamental principle of his entire scientific vision. For him, the mental waves the brain produced were no different from electrical or magnetic waves. He learned to tune into these internal waves, as if adjusting a mental radio, connecting to ideas that didn't come only from his own experience, but from a kind of universal field of intelligence. And here's the fascinating part. Tesla described his mind as an antenna. He believed that thoughts didn't simply arise from nowhere, but were captured from an invisible ocean of information surrounding us all the time. While most people were distracted by their daily routines, he trained his attention to tune into subtler frequencies, and from there, he drew revolutionary ideas. A clear example of this was the invention of the alternating current motor. While everyone was betting on direct current as the future of electricity, Tesla mentally envisioned an entire network based on a different, more efficient system, capable of powering entire cities with energy. He didn't just imagine this system. He saw it working in his mind, as if he was standing in front of a real power plant. That mental vision became reality and is still the foundation of the electrical system we use around the world today. Now, pause for a moment and think with me. If Tesla was able to use his mental waves to create inventions that changed the planet, what could we do if we learned to master that same power? This is an important reflection because it shows that genius is not just talent or luck, but also the ability to train the mind to access deeper dimensions of the subconscious. By the way, before we continue this journey into Tesla's mind, take this moment to subscribe to the channel. Turn on the notification bell, give this video a like, and share it with someone you know who will be surprised by the story of this genius. This really helps our work grow and motivates us to bring you even more inspiring content like this. Tesla had a peculiar method of accessing this creative state. He would spend hours in silence, walking or simply isolating himself in his room. In those moments, his mind entered an intense flow of images. It was almost like meditating, but with the difference that, instead of seeking emptiness, he plunged into increasingly complex mental constructions. His concentration was so strong that he could forget to eat, sleep, or even interact with other people. For him, the inner world was much more real than the outer one. This ability to use the mind as a laboratory wasn't just a trick of imagination. Today, modern science is beginning to prove something similar. Neuroscience studies show that when you visualize an action with intensity and clarity, the brain activates the same areas as if you were actually performing that action. This means that by imagining, you are already training your mind and body to do it. Tesla did this on a massive scale. He didn't just imagine, He lived inside his inventions before creating them physically, and there was another impressive detail. Tesla spoke of flashes of light, sudden visions that appeared in his mind. He described these experiences as if entire ideas descended suddenly, in a matter of seconds, ready and complete. He didn't need to work them out step by step. It was like receiving an instant download of information. Many might consider this a type of extreme intuition, but Tesla believed it was a connection to an invisible field of universal intelligence. Now, imagine the impact of this, walking down the street and suddenly visualizing an entire electrical system. With every detail, every calculation, and every gear. That was Tesla's daily life. He himself said that he didn't invent anything. He merely discovered what already existed in an invisible dimension and brought it into material reality. And this wasn't just philosophy. Tesla even created devices that, according to him, could capture subtle energies from the environment. One example was his famous wireless energy tower, known as the Wardenclyffe Tower. He believed he could transmit electricity freely to the entire world simply by using the planet as a natural conductor. Although the project was never completed due to lack of funding, the idea itself shows how far his mind was capable of going. Tesla's genius, however, was not limited to electrical systems. His ability to use mental waves to envision and test inventions in his mind opened doors to fields that were far ahead of his time. Long before modern wireless technology existed, Tesla was already experimenting with the transmission of signals through the air. He imagined a world in which information and energy could travel invisibly across great distances, and he brought those visions into reality through his pioneering work in radio waves. Although history often credits others for the invention of radio, Tesla's mental experiments and patents were the foundation for what we now know as wireless communication. One of Tesla's most fascinating traits was his relationship with imagination. For him, imagination wasn't a childish pastime, nor was it a distraction from reality. It was the raw material of creation itself. He often described how he would mentally step inside his inventions, walk around them, and even test their durability. If a turbine or engine in his mind produced a sound that felt wrong, he would make adjustments before ever touching a tool. This level of precision demonstrates that Tesla was not simply daydreaming. He was operating at a level of mental engineering that few could comprehend. Many people who encountered Tesla were baffled by his eccentric habits. He seemed detached from ordinary life, uninterested in wealth or social conventions. Yet those who worked closely with him often felt as if they were in the presence of a man who tapped into something greater than himself. They would watch him suddenly pause during a conversation, his eyes fixed on some invisible horizon, as though he were tuning into a signal no one else could hear. Moments later, he would grab a notebook and begin sketching diagrams that would later become blueprints for revolutionary machines. It is here that we see Tesla's profound connection to what he called the source of all ideas. He believed the human brain could act as a receiver of knowledge, much like a radio captures frequencies from the air. The difference was that Tesla had trained his brain to be extraordinarily sensitive, capable of accessing ideas that others could not reach. He didn't just think, he received. He didn't just create, he revealed. Modern neuroscientists might explain this in terms of heightened intuition, creative visualization, and the brain's ability to form complex connections. But Tesla himself insisted that there was more to it than science could yet explain. He felt as though the universe itself whispered secrets into his mind, secrets that could be shared with the world if only he found the right way to translate them into material form. A striking example of this came in his experiments with wireless energy. Tesla envisioned a future where power plants would no longer need wires to distribute electricity. Instead, energy could be transmitted freely through the atmosphere, accessible to anyone, anywhere. His grand design, embodied in the Wardenclyffe Tower, aimed to demonstrate this principle. Though it was never fully realized due to lack of funding and resistance from powerful industrialists who feared the loss of profit, the idea itself remains revolutionary. Today, scientists are still working on wireless power transmission, proving once again that Tesla's visions were not fantasies, but glimpses into a future that humanity is still striving to reach. Now, let's pause for a moment and think about the implications of Tesla's vision. What would the world look like today if his wireless energy system had been adopted? Imagine a planet where electricity flows freely, without cables, without monopolies, without dependence on fossil fuels. Tesla's dream was not only technological, but deeply humanitarian. He wanted to provide free energy to all of humanity. This wasn't just about invention. It was about elevating human potential through the power of the mind. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and share this video with friends. Stories like Tesla's remind us that the limits of human potential are far greater than most people imagine. And by spreading this message, you can inspire others to believe in the untapped power of their own minds. Beyond his groundbreaking inventions, Tesla also experimented with ideas that bordered on the mystical. He spoke openly about accessing visions, sometimes accompanied by flashes of light that would flood his mind with entire inventions. He claimed to have seen cities powered by wireless energy, flying machines unlike any that existed in his era, and even technologies that would resemble today's smartphones. Many dismiss these claims as eccentricity, but history has shown that Tesla was often decades, if not centuries, ahead of his contemporaries. There is a particularly intriguing account where Tesla described seeing images so vivid that they seemed to materialize before his eyes. At times, these visions were overwhelming, interfering with his daily life. Yet instead of rejecting them, he embraced them, channeling the flood of mental energy into practical applications. This unusual relationship with his subconscious allowed him to balance between genius and madness, between the tangible and the intangible. What makes Tesla's story even more fascinating is the way his mind blurred the boundaries between science and spirituality. While he operated as a man of reason, always building, testing, and calculating, he also admitted that much of his inspiration came from a place beyond logic. He saw no contradiction between science and the unseen forces of the universe. In fact, he believed they were one and the same, and that the future of humanity depended on bridging the two. And here's the lesson we can all take from Tesla. You don't need to be a scientist to use your mind in extraordinary ways. The same power of visualization and mental focus that Tesla mastered is available to anyone willing to practice. Whether it's solving a personal challenge, creating art, or pursuing a dream, the ability to tune your mind to higher frequencies can open doors you never thought possible. Tesla's life was filled with brilliance, but also with struggle. While his mental powers allowed him to access ideas far beyond his time, the world around him was not always ready to accept them. Industrialists and businessmen who saw profit as the ultimate goal often clashed with Tesla's vision of free energy for all. Men like Thomas Edison and J.P. Morgan understood the value of controlling resources, while Tesla dreamed of sharing them freely. This conflict meant that many of his most visionary projects never reached completion. Yet even in failure, Tesla left behind a legacy of ideas that continue to inspire us today. There is something profoundly moving about Tesla's story. Imagine a man who could walk into his own mind and build machines out of thought, only to step back into the real world, where money, politics, and skepticism often crushed his dreams. Still, he never stopped believing. He once said, "The present is theirs. The future, for which I really worked, is mine." And in many ways, history has proven him right. The technologies we rely on today, alternating current, radio, remote control, wireless communication, all carry Tesla's fingerprints. But what truly sets Tesla apart is not only what he invented, but how he invented it. His ability to use mental waves to visualize with such clarity shows us the untapped potential of the human mind. Modern science calls this creative visualization, mental rehearsal, or imagination training. Athletes use it to improve performance. Entrepreneurs use it to design businesses, and artists use it to bring their visions to life. But Tesla demonstrated that when taken to the extreme, this mental ability can change the course of history. It is worth asking ourselves, how much of our own potential are we leaving unused? If Tesla could train his mind to such extraordinary precision, then perhaps we too can begin to explore the hidden power within us. It doesn't mean we will all invent revolutionary technologies, but it does mean that we can shape our reality more than we think. Visualization, focus, and the belief in unseen possibilities are not reserved for geniuses. They are human abilities waiting to be cultivated. Tesla himself believed that the future of humanity would depend not only on external machines, but on the inner development of the human spirit. He foresaw a time when science and spirituality would unite, when technology would not simply serve material needs, but also elevate consciousness. In many of his writings, he hinted that the greatest discoveries would not be in laboratories, but within the human mind itself. As we reflect on Tesla's journey, it becomes clear that his legacy is not just about electricity or inventions. It is about daring to imagine, daring to tune into mental frequencies that others ignore, and daring to bring invisible visions into the visible world. Tesla's life teaches us that genius is not about privilege or circumstance, but about the courage to believe in the unseen and the discipline to give it form. And perhaps the most inspiring lesson is this: Tesla never stopped dreaming. Even in his later years, when he lived in relative obscurity, feeding pigeons in New York and surrounded by doubt, his mind continued to generate visions of the future. Some of those visions are still being realized today, more than a century later. His ability to project himself beyond time, to see not just what was, but what could be, is what truly makes him immortal. So what about you? What visions live inside your mind waiting to be born? What ideas, dreams, or solutions could you bring into reality if you dared to train your imagination the way Tesla did? The story of Nikola Tesla is not just history. It is an invitation to explore the extraordinary power of the mind, to believe in the unseen, and to create a future shaped by vision rather than fear. And if you've stayed with us until now, it means Tesla's story has touched something inside you. So take a moment to subscribe to the channel, click the like button, and share this video with friends. By doing so, you help spread not only Tesla's legacy, but also the reminder that inside every one of us lies the ability to shape reality through the power of thought. Together, we can inspire more people to unlock their inner genius, just as Tesla unlocked his. Because in the end, the greatest invention is not the machine. It is the human mind itself. And if Tesla's life teaches us anything, it's that the mind, when tuned to the right frequency, can light up the entire world.